Creatives aren't selling products, they're selling magic items. And most of them are pricing their legendary work like it's common loot. I'm Brent Lindstrom. Welcome back to Like-Minded Arts. Do you want to avoid being a struggling artist and become a working creative? Well, I have enlisted Paul Pape to help me help you. So why do creatives undercharge? You've heard that before. You've probably done it yourself. And then why do clients undervalue their art? Paul Pape has coached hundreds of creatives, and he says the problem isn't pricing, it's identity. Today, we're breaking down his Gamify method and how it changes everything.
How I got to where I am now is that about 12 years into the job, I was in my basement. My wife's like, I'll let you stay home and do this, because I was going to get a studio space, but she's like, I know you well enough to know if you got a studio space, I'll never see you again. So why don't you take over the basement? You can be here. We had kids, and she's like, you'll be the stay-at-home parent, but you'll also have a full-time job. I'm like, okay, cool, I can do that. And so I was sitting here, but I was bored. I was by myself. I didn't really have interaction with other humans, except when I was taking my kids to daycare or whatever. And so I Googled one day, I said, perform art on camera live, because I wanted to get back to like the theater route,
sure.
to be in front of people. And it came up with this suggestion called Twitch. And so I was like, okay, sure. So that day I turned on my camera, I got my account ready for Twitch, and I started doing my work in front of the camera, in front of live people. And it started off small, 2-3 people, but eventually I had 50-60 people watching me every day doing this. And I would do Twitch 5 days a week for about 4 to 6 hours a day.
Wow.
And I was just doing my job, which was making all these random things for people and for companies, but I was answering any questions that people had. And let me tell you, when you're seen as a successful creative, other creatives who aren't quite successful yet would like to know how you did it. Like, what's the secret sauce? And so I was answering a lot of the same questions. I was like, well, how do you figure out what to charge? Or like, where do you find your audience? Or how did you get into this? All the same questions that you ask me as well.
Yeah.
And the answers were the same over and over again. And what I realized was that I could keep telling people the same answer, and it was always different people, but sometimes they'd come back and ask the same thing. And I'm like, why aren't you taking the advice I already gave you? You already know this. And it was because it was free advice, and nobody wants to take free advice. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm going to stop with the Twitch thing, and I'm just going to see if I can do public speaking, try to go out there and tell creatives how to do this. And so I started doing that, and that's what led to the TEDx talk, which is called Santa for Nerds, which kind of goes through the history of how I got to where I am and how I earned the name.
Yeah, watch that. It was pretty good.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And what I realized is that I don't want to be a guy who just stands up here and says, this is how I did it, and look at me and applaud me. What I really want to help other creatives kind of demystify the starving artist trope. Get rid of that darn thing. Get rid of starving artists, because you don't have to be.
If you've ever wondered why you hear the same advice over and over, but nothing ever seems to change, this is why. Free advice doesn't create transformation. What does is investment.
I firmly believe that artists and creatives are the soul of humanity. When we go and do our drudgery every day, at the end of that, when we're done with it, we want to relax, or we want to feel human again. We indulge ourselves in the arts, whether it's the clothes we wear, the food we eat, the cars we drive, the music we listen to, the books, the movies, whatever. That's all done by creatives. And yet, especially in the United States, we have this trope of if you're an artist, you should be poor. But I'm going to use that art to make myself feel rich. It's a weird dichotomy,
Sure.
And so I decided what I would do is, instead of being the guy who just stands up there and tells you how wonderful I am, I will start to consult and coach people, to creatives and other entrepreneurs, to help bring them up, to get them to where I am. And it was during one of those sessions that this whole thing, Gamify Business, came about. And we can get into that one later, but you asked for the origin story, and I know it's a long, complicated process.
No, it's fascinating.
It's always bending. Like I said, it's a winding road. My wife says you mow your own path, and I always have. I'm that guy who's like, I love structure, but even when I was in elementary school, I had 2 desks. I had one for work and I had one for play. I was the kid who wouldn't do the recess, I would go to the library. I would find, when I was in high school, I created my own program, my own classes, because I was bored with the structure that they had and I needed more enrichment. And that's just who I am. And so I mow my own path, and it served me really well. But I know it's unique to me or to just a few. It's not what everybody does, but it's served me really well. But now what I've noticed is sitting outside of the box, essentially, is that I can see how the box works, but I can also see all the other possibilities on how to make it work better or more unique. In 20 years of building a business of custom pieces, which, let me tell you, if I had a nickel for every time I had somebody in business tell me that you cannot have a business based on custom stuff, I wouldn't have to work again. But I've done it, and I've done it for 20 years, and I've been wildly successful at it. But that ability to adjust myself to every client has served me immensely in the coaching and consulting business, because when somebody has a problem, it's unique to them. I mean, it's a universal problem, but the answer, they don't want a universal answer. They want a personalized answer. And that ability to look at them, listen to their pain points, and then customize a response to them as a coach or a consultant that truly speaks to their nature and their needs is infinitely more useful than just giving generic business advice. And so that's how I got it.
So do you still do the custom work there, or are you shifting mostly into helping others with their dreams now too?
I do both. I'm just more limited. I don't take every job that comes across the Paul Pape Designs desk. I'm more selective on it. But like this week, I'm making 60 working miniature vacuum cleaners for a Japanese horror movie as a promotional giveaway. And then just yesterday, the Tonight Show called me up with a job for them. They gave me literally an 18-hour turnaround on a design, build, fabricate, and ship on a product for them that will air on Sunday. So yeah, I still do the Paul Pape Design stuff because creatives need to create. Sure. That's just who we are. So I love to talk, but that is not as tangible. So yeah, I do both.
Cool. Well, I'd ask where things are going from here, but it sounds like you're on your way to coaching more than other things. I mean, is there somewhere else? Do you have another goal in mind that you're reaching for, or is it mostly trying to get people aware of how you can help them and things like that?
I mean, that's the short-term goal, is to help more and more people. The long-term goal is really just that. I want creatives, humans, to understand that we need this, and it isn't something that should be looked down upon. And so the goal is to lift people up. And I know that seems like a lofty goal. It seems, it seems like it leads to the road of poorness. But the reality is I really think that we've gone too far into this capitalistic world where we deem things as valuable to a certain degree based on what the item is, as opposed to the person behind it.
Okay, this next part is my favorite thing Paul teaches. If you ever struggled with pricing your work, this will change everything.
Which is one of the aspects of the Gamify that I love to say to people when I'm talking to creatives, because we're in this world of Amazon and Walmarts where you can buy everything for $1. And then here we are as creatives trying to earn a living at this, where we want to charge $500, $600, $700, $1,500, whatever, for the thing that we've poured our soul into. And so the thing that we course correct on that when I'm talking to my clients is that you're not selling things, you're selling magic items. The thing that you produce has a rarity level into it. Is it a common item, an uncommon? Is it mythical? Is it legendary? What is this thing that you're creating? If you're pouring your heart and soul into it and you're the only one who can make it, that's not a common object. It's not even an uncommon object. That's a legendary item, and it should be priced accordingly, like you would find in a game.
Sure.
When you want that legendary item in a game, you've got to save up for it. You got to constantly drill. You've got to do all the grinding, all that fun stuff in the game that you hate doing, so that you earn the gold to be able to buy that one thing that you know is going to make your life better. And for artists, that's how we need to view ourselves. We need to view ourselves as wizards who create magic items.
So I guess maybe you've answered it now, but maybe you have some other take on it. What would you say is probably the biggest mistake that a creative does make?
The biggest mistake that creatives make is they don't understand. It's two things. They don't understand their worth, and they don't understand the seed of what it is that they're trying to put out there.
Every creative I know, including me, has battled this. And Paul's right. The biggest mistake isn't pricing wrong, it's believing your work is common when it's actually rare.
So I find with most creative entrepreneurs is that they are not, like business, the business mindset is a linear mindset. And it's not an insult to be a linear thinker. It is not an insult at all. But creatives or solopreneurs or entrepreneurs, they're cloud thinkers. We don't think in a linear passage. We think this part here, and then eventually we're going to jump over here, and then we're going to go here, and it's a lot like that squirrel meme. You know, it's like, oh, squirrel. You know, the dog's always going everywhere. And that's the hardest thing for creatives to understand when it comes to business. Is they think business, because it's linear and it's very by the book, and there are procedures that have to happen, it's boring. It's just boring. And so when they have to do it, and that's what it is, they have to do it, they half-ass it, or they don't really want to put themselves into it that much. They want to do the bare minimum to get by so that they can go back to the thing that they really enjoy. And so what I've found is the best way to get through to them is we have to translate that linear language into something that they can be excited about. And that's where gamifying it came from. Is I was working with a client who their business was on the surface wildly successful, earning $1.3 million in gross. That's awesome. I think we'd all love to have that. But their net was $50,000 because they didn't understand business. And what was happening is they had hired somebody who did know business and was fleecing them, is what was happening. And they got to the point where they were having health issues and they were on the brink of collapse with this business. And they brought me in. They said, can you do anything to help us? And I'm like, sure, let's take a look at it. And so we actually went and poured through the books. And we found out where the money was, and we found out all this. But then I'm like, okay, you want to get rid of the business guy and you want to run this yourself, so tell me this answer. There are 3 of them left. I said, what do you guys do in the business? And they said, oh, we do everything. And I'm like, well, that's the best way to ruin your business right there. Not everyone can do everything. I said, what is your specific role? And they're like, well, we don't really think about it that way. I'm like, well, assign yourself one right now. We're going to assign yourself one. So we had like the artist, then we had the manager, and then we had the book, the person who does the books, the finances. I said, okay. And they're all gaming people. They're big nerds like myself. And so I was like, how about tomorrow I come back and we're going to play, I don't know, Dungeons and Dragons Business Edition. And what we'll do is instead of being like a wizard or a warrior, you're going to be your role in the business. And the encounters, the monsters that you're going to encounter during the campaign are going to be, you're going to have to tackle it, but the person with the most expertise in that area is going to be the leader of that campaign. And they're like, okay, cool. And so we came back and I did this. And this is all off the top of my head because I just trying to help customize something to this client. And we played it for about 4 hours. And we were going through like normal business stuff. Like we were talking about ROAS, we were talking about ROIs, we were talking about investments, and all the stuff that's boring to them. But I was doing it in a framework of Dungeons and Dragons. And their eyes were lighting up. They're like, I'm getting this. And then at the end of it, one of them turned to me and goes, is this what business is? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And he goes, well, this is more fun. And I'm like, yeah, it is, isn't it? Because business should be fun. And when it's not fun anymore, you're doing something wrong. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's work involved, but work should be fun. I mean, there's the fulfillment in it. And so when I left there, that was kind of the seed behind Gamify Business, is I was able to be the Rosetta Stone for something complex for somebody who thinks like a cloud. And I was like, well, this is what I've been doing for 20 years for myself, and I just kind of figured it out on my own. But I'm like, let's see if I can extrapolate this into a system that allows me to speak to people, because we all game. We've been gaming since we were little. I mean, and now with everybody with a device, we game all the time. And there's so much psychology behind it. There's the idea of the dopamine that we get from successes, from minor steps and such. And that's why we doom scroll. Did you know when we doom scroll, it's not the actual viewing of the thing that gives us the dopamine kick, it's the movement of our fingers to go to the next thing? Did you know that?
I didn't know that, no.
It's interesting. Yeah. And so we're like, so we sit in there and we doom scroll. It's not because we're learning anything. It's just that we're getting a dopamine kick in our brain for doing this movement. And I was like, well, if we could take that action, that ability to earn dopamine reward systems in our brain, but apply it to something that is useful rather than doom scrolling. Don't get me wrong, I still doom scroll. But like, use it in something in your business and apply that, and then you still got that dopamine kick. You'll be more want to work more in your business. You'll want to do these things because you're getting rewarded for it. Because especially as an entrepreneur, a solopreneur, you're the only person in your business. No one's telling you good job. No one's giving you a gold star. And let me tell you, adults still want gold stars. Okay, like when I'm doing the Dungeons and Dragons things, I give out gold stars and stickers, and you would be surprised how many adults walk around with stickers and they're like, I earned my sticker today. Because it's a reward. It's for doing something well. And I don't care if you're a rich person or a poor person. If you get something for free for doing your good job, you love it. It's just how we're reward based. And so that's really where this whole thing comes from, is the ability to translate something difficult or complex or boring into something that is fun, enjoyable, and anybody can do it.
Hey, if you liked this and you want to catch the entire interview, because this was just a small piece of it, check the link in the description below and jump on over onto the podcast where you can catch the entire interview.
Well, if you're interested in knowing more about Santa Fe Nerds, you can go to paulpapedesigns.com, and all of my social media is Paul Pape Designs because I've been using it for 20 years. But if you're interested in the Gamify Business system, you can go to gamifybusiness.com. And if you go to gamifybusiness.com/podcast, you can actually download the first 2 chapters of the book for free to check out the system, to learn a little bit more about yourself. You learn about character creation, which is how you learn about yourself, and then hopefully entices you to buy the rest of the book.
I downloaded that myself and took a look at it, and I loved the first 2 chapters, and I highly recommend you guys give it a try.